Good evening. Welcome to Sharp Talk Live. We are so excited to be back. It has been quite some time since we've been before you all, but we want to just say thank you for your love, your prayers, your encouragement, and your support. Our family has beat COVID. We've been working through cancer, and just like the rest of you, rising above all of the chaos and calamity that ensues here in this world. I also want to note that we've lost several people that we know and love and that are very close to us. And so just want to have a moment of silence to honor their memories and trusting that they will forever be a blessing for those that we have lost. And of course, honoring the loved ones that you all have lost as well. So please join me for a moment of silence. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Dad. I appreciate that. So to bring some levity, we have an extraordinarily special guest tonight.
We are excited. The greatest ball carrier in the history of the NFL is with us live on Sharp Talk. So without further ado, let's get this.
Without further ado, Dad, I'm going to have you introduce your friend because I know you are thrilled. So Barry Sanders, thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be here. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. What a great pleasure it is. It gives me to introduce to Sharp Talk the electric, the indomitable Hall of Fame former Detroit Lion running back and current advisor to the Ford family and Upper Lions management. Welcome to Sharp Talk, Barry Sanders.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you guys.
You know, Barry, you and I, we played in Pro Bowls together, if my memory serves me correct. And we had the same contract negotiator at one point. This was in the late 80s. And I remember you came to visit our home, my family. This one was only 3 or 4 years old. I don't know if you remember that. But this is my daughter, Rebekah, Sharp.
Indeed. You were holding me in the photo, so this is truly a full circle moment. Now you're holding me down in this interview.
Hey, no, I do remember coming to your house and meeting you. And, you know, I kept my distance because I knew you're, you know, D-line, you know, so I kept my distance. I kept my distance from you. But no, yeah, we had a good little chat there back in late 80s, early 90s, whatever year that was.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, Barry, one of the questions I've always wanted to ask is the 1997 season, you rushed for an NFL record, 14 games, 100 yards, and you also had two 200-yard games en route to 2053 for the season. Would you consider that season and those totals your greatest accomplishment in the NFL?
You know, I think so, Louis. That was my 9th season. And you know, for a running back, you know, they start to think you get a little old at that point. And the thing that is kind of special about that season is my first 2 games, I only had a little bit over 50 yards.
Wow.
And so I remember, you know, the chatter, you know, maybe he's losing a step, you know, he's getting a little old, you know, that kind of thing. And then we just proceeded game after game, you know, to rack up yards. And I knew I was in great shape. You know, I knew how to train. By my 9th season, I really knew how to train for the position. And I got to say this, and you know some of these guys that I played with, you know, guys like Kevin Glover, you know, and there's a whole list of guys, Ray Roberts and Jeff Hardings, Mike Compton, Larry Thorpe, you know, those were the linemen. I may have missed 1 or 2. Sorry if I missed somebody, left someone out.
Lomas Brown, don't forget Big Low.
Lomas, obviously, he was there earlier in my career. My 97 year, he wasn't there.
Okay.
Lomas had moved on to bigger and better things, you know, as you remember. But no, I played with a great group of guys that really just wanted to run the football, and they knew that the best way for us to win was to get me the ball. You know, and so yeah, it was special. Especially when you look at the last game of that season, the last regular season game of that year, where we were playing the Jets at home. You know, Bill Parcells coached Jets, Bill Belichick defensive coordinator. You know, and all those sort of plot lines going into that game. So yeah, that was my best season statistically, and a lot of great memories with a lot of guys that I played with. They helped me get there.
Incredible accomplishment, and thank you for answering that question.
Yeah, and so I would love to just kind of rewind it a little bit and talk a little bit about where you grew up. If you could share with our viewers a bit about your formative years and what really shaped your passion for football.
Yeah, absolutely, Rebecca. Well, I grew up in Kansas, Wichita, Kansas. I'm one of 11 kids. William and Shirley Sanders. For me, I always felt like it was the best thing ever. Like I said, I had 8 sisters and 2 older brothers. I'm right there in the middle. I was fortunate enough to choose 2 great parents, who really were great, really examples for me, honestly. Mom and dad both, worked hard and wanted to set a good example for kids. And, mom, it's funny when I think back because I remember being with mom at a really young age and people would see her with all these kids, right? And they would almost come up in like a sympathetic way, like, oh, you have all these kids. Wow. How do you manage this? And mom would always say, well, my children are a blessing. Kids are a blessing. My children are a blessing. This, and I don't know if she really believed that, but that's what she said. That's what she said, and so that's the kind of mom I had. Now, if you ask my dad, he probably would say something else about having all those kids. But that's a whole other story. But I was fortunate enough to have them just as examples and just 2 hardworking parents who tried to give their kids the best shot, in this world. And so my dad was an avid sports fan, and an avid football fan. And so that's really where I got my love of sports. He was always watching sports on TV, whether it was football or basketball or baseball or golf. He just loved sports. And so when he wasn't working, which he was a hardworking guy, he loved watching sports on TV. So I picked up that love of football at a very early age, and so that's where it came from.
What a tremendous honor. I do remember, I think it was your first Pro Bowl, 89, 90. I think your dad was there in Honolulu at that first Pro Bowl. I got a chance to meet him.
Oh yeah, no, my dad wasn't going to miss a trip to Hawaii, man. I mean, yeah. So he was absolutely. Mom and dad were absolutely at those first Pro Bowls for sure. So he loved that. He loved coming to Hawaii, seeing the players that that were in the league and players that he had watched. Getting a chance to talk to him. So yeah, no, absolutely, he was there.
And Barry, speaking about our children and children being a blessing, I remember you and I had a conversation about 3 months ago, and you were sharing with me your new role, blending as a parent and professor during the pandemic. Tell us about your children and what it was like blending the virtual experience, the virtual learning reality during the pandemic.
Well, Louis, man, I think I pretty much failed as a teacher, man. I think
Why do you say that?
I think I failed as a teacher. I mean, we have about another week left in school, so I'll see how the grades shape up here in the next few days with the boys. But no, it's been I'm adjusting like many other parents out there with the online and virtual world, and we've mostly been online here in my household. They've gone back a little bit here and there, but my sons really were adamant that they'd like to stay home if possible, and let everything kind of blow over. So what's funny? I wonder what they would say about my teaching and my sort of helping them with their schoolwork and stuff like that. I wonder what they would say. I'm gonna have to ask them later. I'm glad they're not here to answer that question.
How old are you? How many and what are their ages?
Well, so the youngest 2, their boys are 14 and 17. So 8th grade and 11th grade. And then my 19-year-old, he was at Howard, but he took the semester off. But the 2 that are still in school are 8th grade and 11th grade.
Awesome. And now, do they have a love for football or a passion for sports, or have they taken other pathways?
No, yeah, they like sports. My youngest, the 8th grader, he's played football.
Okay.
my high schooler, he plays basketball and has done other sports. But yeah, there's still at least one football player left in the house.
Awesome. Carrying on that living legacy of a name, Sanders. And I want to pivot and talk a little bit about the Ford family, because I actually work for Ford, and it's been a blessing to be there for the last 8 years. I'm really grateful for the experiences that I have gained. And you spent, your entire career with the Lions that are obviously owned by the Ford family. And now you work in like an advisory role to them. So can you share with us what that experience has been like for you working with the Ford family?
Well, yeah, for me, it's been amazing. Honestly, it's been amazing. When you start talking about picking a coach, that's not something you want to do very often. Hopefully that only happens every now and then. But yeah, I was kind of involved in that process. It was really for the first time understood kind of, sort of the candidates they were looking at, and they were considering and that sort of thing, the qualities of sort of a guy that you wanted to come in and lead your team. So for me, honestly, Rebekah, it's really a case of how things have really come full circle. Because when I first retired, me and the team, we weren't on good terms. We weren't really on great speaking terms. And then eventually, both sides just kind of came back around, and the last, I don't know, 5-10 years or whatever, I've slowly, been sort of an ambassador, and really just around more. And then this year, I was more so in the conversation, really in the loop on what they were sort of looking for in a coach, and so yeah. So for me, it's great. I don't know if I had any impact on anything. I was more just kind of listening to the conversation and sort of understanding what their process was. But no, yeah. But to answer your question, it's really ideal and worked out well for me, that I can come around and sort of be around fans, and be around the team a little bit. Obviously with COVID, things have been, last year, things weren't the same, but before that, yeah, I mean, things are great, and I couldn't ask for a better relationship.
Well, Barry, I've always been a Detroit Lion fan, having grown up in the city of Detroit, attended public schools in the city. And even though I played 13 seasons with the Arizona/St. Louis Cardinals, I've always been a Lions fan. We have our Lion Blue on in honor of you and the organization. So we're expecting big things, a turnaround, and early results. OTAs have very positive reports from the attitude change with the team. So we're expecting a turnaround this upcoming season with our Detroit Lions.
Oh yeah, I'm right there with you. I think there are definitely high expectations. I think, you look at the big move with Jared Goff coming in, and this kid, obviously he's played a lot of big football. I'll say a lot of very important football in his short time in the NFL. Excuse me. You look at the playoff games and the Super Bowl he's played in. And so I think a lot of the fans are excited about that, and obviously with the new coach coming in with kind of that gritty sort of take no nonsense attitude, and so yeah, I mean, hopefully we can get this thing turned around. There's so many Lions fans out there that are just waiting for this team to turn that corner, and so in today's NFL, it's very competitive, and like I always say, hey, we're in a tough division. We're in a tough division. We got the league's MVP, obviously, that we got to play twice a year. You look at the Bears, how well they played since they brought in Khalil Mack. Look at the Vikings, how well, the important games, playoffs that they played in the last few years. I mean, it's a dogfight every Sunday in this division. So you really got to strap your helmet on and be ready to play. So hopefully, this is the season where we can say the Lions have turned the corner.
Absolutely. And all of us Lions fans have been waiting for years for some success deep into the playoffs. We certainly deserve it. And we're excited about the future for our organization.
Absolutely. And I just feel like I can't sit in front of a living legend without asking you how it feels to have iconic status in the greatest spectator sport known to mankind.
Oh, well, I love the way you frame that question. You know, oh, hey, look, it's absolutely a real honor and treat, Rebecca and Louis. I mean, you know, I think about my football journey. And Louis, you know, I was just one of those little kids out there just really trying to run after and play with my older brother, you know, and his friends playing football in the neighborhood. And then I was just that high school kid who didn't have any scholarship offers going into my senior year,
Wow.
who just wanted to make an impact on the field. You know, and so I always had that hunger and drive. I just loved playing the game. I remember, you know, my ninth grade year, I barely even saw the field.
Wow. Wow.
But I just love suiting up, you know, just being a player, you know. And so fortunately for me, being sort of a late bloomer, you know, things happened where I was able to earn that scholarship, you know, and was able to go sit under the tutelage of Thurman Thomas for a couple of years at Oklahoma State. And I always had just that attitude of, even as I got successful, I was still kind of that kid fighting for a scholarship, trying to prove that yes, I belong out here. And I got to mention also, you know, just so many great players, Louis, that I saw play this game, running backs that I always loved watching, that made such a big impact on me. You
Who
know,
are some of those? Who are some of those?
I mean, you can go back to guys like Mark Van Egan. You can go back to guys like Terry Metcalf. Terry Metcalf played for the St. Louis Cardinals. He would
Yes,
have been probably a generation or so before you. But Terry was one of those little guys, little squirrely guys,
yeah,
running around doing spins and
yeah,
doing jump cuts in the early 70s. Well, that's the guys like that were the guys I was watching. Joe Washington, you
yes,
know,
yes.
guys like that. And then obviously you come forward a little bit, you know, Tony Dorsett when he was at the University of Pittsburgh,
TD.
Marcus Allen, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I mean, guys like that. Obviously Walter Payton, OJ Simpson. I mean, there's a long list of guys that I would just sit, if they're on TV, I was there studying them. You know, so I know I veered away from the question a little bit,
No, that's
but
good.
but
That's
Great.
she talked it,
good. That's good.
but yeah, so all that really played into, you know, so when you say, you know, the kind of mark I've left and being where I am, yeah, I look back at so much of that, and then just me seeing it as a real gift. You know, this game has been a real gift for me. And so I wanted, every time I stepped on the field, I wanted to make sure that I honored it in the way that I thought it should be, and things just worked out fantastically for me in that way.
Well, that is tremendous, and obviously you've left a legacy, because so many others, I'm sure, if you asked them the same question, they would say they watched Barry Sanders and they patterned their game after you. I'm holding up a helmet, and Barry, you remember signing this for my brother-in-law about 4 or 5 years ago?
I'm sure you signed a tremendous number of helmets.
I don't remember signing that one specifically, but okay, yeah, it does look familiar.
Yeah, that's your autograph, and you know, you've always been so very kind and gracious with your thoughts and your time, and so we just want to thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to interview you and spend a little time getting to know you a little better. Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts.
Absolutely. I have one more question before we.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
We talk a lot about, you know, faith, football, family, fun, friendship, all of those wonderful things. But I really do believe that every great dream begins with a dreamer. And just as you spoke, like your hunger and your drive coupled with your gift has allowed you to just reach the stars. And you've really paved the way for a lot of athletes that are coming after you, just as my dad said. So what do you desire for your legacy to be?
Yeah, that's a tough question when you talk about legacy, because for me, you know, I never thought about it as a player, because I was always wanting to see what was I going to do next. Okay, how can I continue to be great? And so I guess indirectly I thought about it because you know, I always want to step on the field and be as great as I possibly could be, right? And obviously that's how you leave a great legacy. You know, and so for me, you know, I think, you know, hopefully a lot of the numbers and things like that speak for themselves. But I think what's behind the numbers is just someone who absolutely just loved competing on the football field, who just saw it as an absolute gift. There was nothing greater in my mind as a kid than growing up being a professional football player and a running back in the NFL. There was nothing greater than that, you know. And so for me, I saw it as just a true gift, and hopefully, I treated it with the care that it deserved. I think, you know, when I stepped on the field, because I knew I was like one of the smallest guys out there, but I was like the biggest target. Wow. So I had to be very serious about my business out there.
Yes, you were one of the biggest targets. We would practice, and they would have the quickest, most athletic and agility guy playing you all week in practice in preparation to play you guys. And you could just see the fear in the eyes of our defenders, not wanting to get embarrassed on national TV by you. You know, tell us a little bit about Freeman McNeil. Freeman and I played together at UCLA. Tell us how he may have influenced your career.
Oh, absolutely. I remember Freeman McNeil, you know, more when he played for the Jets, right? He was one of those guys where I don't know the exact year he went to the Jets. I'm thinking 83, 85 time frame is when he would have gone to the Jets. But that's when I would have been high school, sort of going into college, and seeing a guy like him that I knew wasn't a overly big guy. You know, that gave me hope that, okay, maybe it is possible, because me growing up in Kansas, and probably a lot of kids are like this, I just had the impression that, okay, in order to be a football player, you got to be 6'1", 6'3", you know, whatever the case may be. But there was guys like Freeman McNeil, who's, from what I understand, is, you know, 5'9", 5'10"-ish. At least that's what I read in Sports Illustrated. You know, he's like 5'9", 5'10". So anyway, when I saw guys like him, it just gave me hope that, okay, you know, maybe you don't have to be, you know, this giant of a guy to play on a certain level. So absolutely, I certainly remember Freeman McNeil.
And I just want to tell you, one of your front office people during the time you played, Larry Lee, wants to say hello to you.
Yes. And we go way back to Larry too. Yeah. Well, Barry, you know, it's interesting because you continue to call this game a gift, but you have given all of us as your fans, as your friends, such a great gift. So thank you for all of the wonderful memories. Again, I echo my dad's sentiments. We are so grateful that you joined us tonight on Sharp Talk Live, and we wish you all of the best in your future endeavors. We know you've got a lot going on, so we will continue to glean from you and root you onward. So thanks again, Barry.
Go Lions, baby.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Stay safe, Barry. God bless. Thank you.
All right, man.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, Dad, that was a great way to start season 3 of Sharp Talk Live.
Season 3
Barry
of Sharp Talk.
Such an amazing guy.
So let's see. We've had 3 Hall of Famers: Dwight Stevenson, Miami Dolphins center. We had Eric Dickerson, running back with Indianapolis Colts and the Los Angeles Rams. And now Barry Sanders. So we've had the privilege, the great honor of interviewing 3 NFL Hall of Fame players. How awesome is that?
We'll see what's going to happen next. Fans, family, thank you all again so much for being on this journey with us. We really appreciate the continued support. We will bring great individuals on that are legends of the league, gridiron greats, and those that just have an impactful story to share, because we all need inspiration and encouragement in the days and times that we are living in. Please check out our new website, sharptalkshow.com, and we will be back with another episode soon. God bless you, family.
Peace.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Stay safe and stay blessed.
Amen.